Hi, I'm audible? Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon to you all. So the topic for today, we are specifically focusing on the future-proofing talent, and we have a very experienced team here. But before we start on that topic, I just thought probably I'll give a couple of minutes of the background why we have picked up this topic so that we set the context for this discussion. So India's holistic value proposition that we talk for the GCC has, especially when I say GCC or the offshoring economy, has been pretty evident in the last 2 to 3 decades. The first movers in the GCC probably started off with cost efficiencies as the main driver, but over a period of time they have realized that a greater value awaited them when they look at the talent pool, the skilled talent that is available in the country, and how they can utilize that for going in a much more faster fashion to the market, and not just helping their parent organization, but also in terms of not dropping anything on the quality front which the parent organization has been used to. And in this ever-evolving business which we talk about, and much more prevalent, especially after COVID and the changes that have come through, adaptability and efficiency are one of the cornerstones for any industry, and much more so for a GCC. However, this enabling these what I call as efficiencies and unleashing the power of the GCC, you have to have a nuanced understanding of the strategy at each of the GCC and the parent organization as we speak. And there's a symbiotic relationship between the talent that is available, how you harness that talent, and that enables you to actually effectively deliver on those strategies that you have put in. So if you look at all the GCCs, the high-performing GCCs obviously focus beyond just the cost efficiencies. And one of the key pillars of this strategy is people, and it brings us to the topic that we are talking about in terms of harnessing the talent. And for that, I just probably will ask each of you to just give us a first couple of minutes introduction of yourselves, and also talk about the transformative trends that you are seeing in this year, specifically 2024, and how is your organization driving that?
I guess this is the disadvantage of sitting next to the moderator, but handed the mic. I'm Sonali Sarkar. I head up HR at Epsilon. I'm the Vice President of Human Resources there. Before I talk a little bit more about myself, let me talk about Epsilon a little bit. Epsilon is an AgTech, MarkTech company. Now, what does that mean? All of us are consumers, right? We buy products. And Epsilon basically helps the top Fortune 500 companies are our customers. And Epsilon helps them to sell their products to their consumers. So that puts Epsilon in a pretty enviable position, because whenever we go back and tell our engineers, hey, you're going to work on cool products, it's like, oh, so yes, and remember, a large part of the world or of their customers are going to be actually leveraging the solutions that we provide. So that makes it tremendously interesting. And in Epsilon India, Epsilon is part of the Publicis Group, which is a French conglomerate, 92,000 odd people globally. And Epsilon has around about 9,600 people globally, of which 3,600 plus is in India. From a personal standpoint, I've been in the HR space for more than 30 years. So like I tell people, I won't get another job in any other space at all. I've been leading HR for organizations from past 17, 18 years. And transformation, organizational transformation, has been a key area. The reality is that change is the only constant. So changes will occur. The question is, as organizations change, how does HR, which is a people function, how does the people function adapt and help the organization to succeed? That becomes critical, and that takes various pieces to it. It would be in terms of do you have the right talent? It would be in terms of do you have the right, people in terms of levels of talent? What is your business model? What's your location advantage of various pieces? So there are various number of things. I will not get into the top transformation pieces. I think I'll just talk of one, which I think is pretty close to most people in the room. That's about the return to office or the hybrid workspace. I know a couple of years back, we all decided, we're all going to work from home. And then the question came, how do we get them back? And how do we make that a happy experience with employees who are like saying, we don't want to go back to work. For those of us who are based in Bangalore, traffic is an issue. So the question is, how do you get a workforce back, ensure that they're engaged, and go back and share with them that if they remain engaged, there's so much more that they get out of, the entire piece from a career standpoint, from the learning standpoint. So that's one thing that we've been looking at, apart from changes in the business model and how do we transform from that standpoint. So with that, let me pass it over to you.
Thank you, Karthik. Anil Puttegowda. I've been in the banking industry for many decades now, all as technologists. I've had the good fortune of being part of the GCCs in several places. I'm with NatWest Group now. NatWest Group is a UK bank, and it was ex-RBS, if most of you remember. We've been in India for a couple of years, and we've been here for a long time. We operate out of 3 cities. And as far as transformation is concerned, like any other GCCs or any other setup which has India presence or any kind of remote presence, we are moving past the traditional building tech capability for the global parent organization, as well as the ops capability. That is still the underpinning capability which we focus on. However, we are evolving to the next stage of capability, build out, where we are focusing on building end-to-end business capability where it is appropriate. For example, in retail space, as well as in commercial and institutional banking space, there's a huge opportunity for us to build that capability because a lot has changed in the India ecosystem. 2 things have changed, why it has given us a better leverage compared to what it was a few years ago. It is because the people with the domain knowledge, because of various local banks and the fintech and other ecosystem really developing that capability, there's talent available. And 2, some of the leadership capability which we are investing in, they are truly capable of running global functions from this location. So those are the 2 levers we are really leveraging to build global capability which either can be developed here or can be run here. So that's the next stage of evolution which we are looking at as an extension to what we traditionally did. So,
thank you, Anil. I'm Debasis. I'm part of TransUnion. I lead the TransUnion operations on the tech side and on the GCC side out of India and the global centers. A little bit about TransUnion if you have not taken a credit, right? So TransUnion is all about enabling financial inclusion through credit scores, and we ensure all of you are able to make good financial decisions by having a very accurate picture of yours. So we are almost 12,000 people across the globe, and in the GCCs which we have almost 4,500 odd associates across the different locations across the globe. Now, about the question of setting up the GCCs and the transformative trends, right? I will follow a similar approach in terms of dividing it into 2 distinct phases. The first phase, if I look at before 2020, all GCCs went through a sequential maturity curve, right? We started with cost arbitrage, staff augmentation, then we moved into having teams where part of the team is in India, in the GCC, part in the headquarters. Then we matured into having fully self-contained teams operating out of GCCs and driving business functions. And then finally getting into a transformation hub where you take the decisions. Before 2020, we had almost 1,000 odd GCCs in India, and there were a handful who were at the last stage of, or the most mature stage. Now 2020, we all know, significant digital transformation, ability to work from home, which was unthought of before when we thought of the GCCs. Significant amount of how we do our work all impacted us, all the transformative trends, right? The most important one was talent, access to talent across the globe. And what it did, all the big organizations in the US used to say they are global organizations. But walking the talk of really global organizations was enabled by the global talent which was available across, right? And I'll tell TransUnion as an example there. When we started in 2017, from 2017 to 2020, we were just doing extended functions or extended teams. And I will say that most of the functions when we were doing before, we were only 500 associates, one center. 2020 to 2023, we have 4 centers in India. We have 2 centers outside of India. We do every single function what we can do. We have an analytics center of excellence operating out of India. We are running platform engineering functions end-to-end out of India. And we are not just a technology shop anymore. We have gone into the areas of global solutions. The fraud is a big thing happening. We are driving the fraud across the globe from India. So essentially, if I take a crystal ball and say, right, where GCCs will be in a couple of years, I feel it will be the second headquarters of the global enterprise. I mean, some of them are already on the point to reach that stage, and some who take the right steps will definitely be there. Thank you.
Thanks again, Karthik. Thank you, ED Now and the Deloitte team for the invite to be part of this amazing panel. My name is Sandeep Narayan. I'm representing First American India. We are a GCC, a Global Capability Center of our parent organization, First American US. Our primary product is pretty unique. It's called title insurance. Gives you confidence and assurance on the line title in case you're into a mortgage transaction, buying or selling properties. And that's something which is the need of the hour on the real estate sector. In terms of transformation for us, I think again, going back to my panel members, I believe we've already spoken about the evolution of GCCs. I think we've gone through the first couple of phases of cost arbitrage, having teams across both groups. I believe the challenge for us now is kind of rebuilding that trust, relabeling ourselves, because GCCs also have this boon and curse. I mean, the boon is obviously that you have the confidence and assurance of staying with one customer, which is your parent. The curse is also at times the comfort of saying that you don't have to actually kind of run for a top line. You're not competing with partners. But the market dynamics are changing. You are actually working in a distributed environment. You will also be competing with third-party vendors at times. And how do you actually keep that agility in terms of your business understanding, ensuring that you are able to give back the value, and also not be talking in terms of headcount solutions. So we want to kind of move away from this concept of saying, I will give you 3 headcounts for this problem, I'll give you 10 headcounts for this problem. It's not a scale issue, I think it's a value issue. So that's the transformation journey for us at this point.
Thank you very much. Somebody started with us. I almost forgot the question. I'll try my best. Good evening, everybody. My name is Santosh. I've been with Dell for about 20 years now. And I started my career as a senior team manager in the call center business in early 2004. And then kind of found my way into HR in 2007 and did a couple of stints in L&D, etc. In my current role, I lead the talent acquisition function for India, which is for India, for Dell in India. And the reason I mentioned the story of where I started was that pretty much was what GCCs did early 2000, right? Support function, delivery organization. And then we evolved into being a very development kind of center, innovation hubs, etc. For me, the transformation at Dell, and we are a technology company, and it's important that we are ahead of other competitors, is really adopting or adapting technology in the GCC world. The quicker, the faster we adapt, I think we'll give better customer service, better cost efficiencies, and obviously lead the way. And being in the technology business, we are very conscious that we want to provide these solutions to our customers also, which is where we want to go in the transformation journey. So,
can I ask this, Sonali? You have a pretty interesting model, right? Because you service a lot of Fortune 500 companies. The skill sets that you will require will be much more varied in terms of each company, the industry that you serve in. And in this ever-changing or fast-changing landscape of an innovation economy, as we would like to call it, whatever skills are required today may not be there tomorrow. The roles that are there today may not be there tomorrow. So how do you actually look at anticipating the changes that are going to come, the skill set that will be required, and how do you actually plan for enabling that you have that workforce of tomorrow with the skill set that is required?
Thank you for the question, Karthik. At Epsilon, I think, just to provide a little bit more context, we have a number of global roles operating from Epsilon India. What that fundamentally means is that there are leaders who have teams across the globe reporting into them. Coming to the question of skills and how do you kind of ensure that you're, as an organization, you're ready for the next curve that comes out, I would kind of try to kind of talk a little bit more about the context part first. What is important is, before you look at skills, let's look at it from a business lens, because that's what the people of the talent function fundamentally does. If you look at any organization, you will see that there are things called the cash cows, right? They provide a huge chunk of your revenue, but they may not be having the latest products that the organization is actually putting out there. This is time and tested, works very well, gives you loads of money, so that's one segment. You have another segment which is like a mix of both. It's a little newer products, some degree of innovation, doing pretty okay from a revenue standpoint. And then we have the third, which is fabulous products, really cool work, but the buyers are very far and few. So you barely are getting revenue, but you're hoping that at some point in time that will pick up and you'll be able to get revenue. Now when you take that business landscape and try and transpose it on a talent landscape, one of the things that we've learned at Epsilon is in terms of saying, the business may come back and say, hey, let's look at some cool skills. And then you go back and train those people on the cool skills, but then you realize that you don't have the work for them. And when you don't have the work for them, you've taught them the trade, taught them the skills, and how long will your people be there? So they'll be like, okay, let's go out. So then they leave the company. So one of the things that we are doing, which is working for us at Epsilon, is when we talk of saying what kind of skills, we look back and say, let's not look at skills too far out. Let's look at skills in that second segment that I talked about, which is like you see the work coming in the next 6 months. So A, do we have work that's coming in? What kind of skills? Is it completely off? Is it still related? For example, could be in the area of automation, could be in the area of AI, but how is it related to the work that is going to come in? Are we working on that area? Can we commit that the work is going to come in? And then we put a program together to be able to learn those skills. We have seen that that is something that is working for us, because we are talking of skills which is not too far out, because at the end of the day, we are doing it for the business, right? So there has to be some business metrics. It's not enough to say I'm going to skill for the future without any business metrics coming out. So it's more in terms of what skilling am I doing, what are the business matrices that we're going to track, and how do we know if we're doing something that's actually going back and impacting the business. So that has been the philosophy that we've used, and that's worked pretty well for us, because while we have one leg in the future, we still have one leg pretty firmly planted on today and what we can do 6 months from now. And that has helped us well.
It's interesting. So, Santosh, if I can come to you, probably not to ask this time. So, what do you see as the skill set which is in demand currently in the GCCs that you see? And how are you actually ensuring that you hire the right talent besides probably posting in on the team that Sonali has built up? And how do you keep actually building up the skills within your organization to ensure that you have the team right skills in your
Multiple ways. I think first is been known to be a very learning organization. So a lot of our skills are very inbuilt, a lot of internal mobility that happens within them. Also looking at markets, like what Sonali is saying, just to see what we can leverage that's available in the market. Also looking at early in career, that's the place we have taken a lot. Big presence in campuses, etc., making sure that we are out there talking about technology, kind of like that. Bringing them on and then training them, kind of creating these incubation centers for us. Also very conscious of the fact as a technology organization, these Gen X, Gen Y that's coming into the workforce is our future customer also. So it works both ways to bring them in early and train them. And thereby, but like Sonali mentions, it's constantly evolving. What is relevant today is not tomorrow. So it's always a catch-up game. Hopefully I'll hire some from some people. And I can't find them.
So if I come to you, can you talk about the trajectory at First American, and particularly how are you marrying your business growth to the evolution of your talent management? Because like Sonali also mentioned, it can come in spurts. Suddenly you might find that you don't have enough work for them, and also if you are planning ahead, you might have certain thoughts in terms of how you build certain skill set that can affect the business outcome, which might actually influence the decision making at your parent organization. So can you at least shed some light on that?
Absolutely. I think, and that's a real business challenge for us. If I have to just go back to the pandemic period, First American again is a real estate player. Our entire business projections work on interest rates. And what happened during the pandemic is that the interest rates actually went down artificially, which pulled up all the real estate transactions. So if I have to talk in terms of top line numbers, we moved from almost 5 billion to 9 billion by the end of the pandemic. And we closed last year at around 6 billion because the interest rates still are on a 30-year high right now. We're waiting for the reversal of the interest rate cycle to kick in. But that's the kind of trajectory that we have. And it's obviously kind of pushing us to manage our workforce, manage our talent in a very, very agile manner, where you want people to be fungible, you want them to be able to move across different applications. And again, the other story from an organization perspective is that you also have enough of legacy applications internally. You are also in the transformative phase where you want to kind of move into the next generation platforms. And you also want to do some of the cool stuff which Sonali is talking of, which is you want to explore pilots in AI, ML, and the likes. And actually kind of trying to cater a workforce which is ready to look at the entire spectrum. Because if you give a choice, I think everyone wants to do the super cool stuff. But the major part is actually to keep the lights on and also to kind of now look at the next gen part of it. And those also kind of create issues around internal parity because we've got a lot of people who've been in the system for a long time. We've seen the last couple of years where offers are going at multiples of 60%, 100%. And then you struggle of retaining your internal talent as well as the build and the buy decision. So a lot of emphasis is again going back to building it internally, looking at the skills which are kind of coming up, but again, it's not a too far view. I mean, I don't think we're talking of 3 to 5 years. I think it's a much closer horizon of what do we need in the next 6 to 9 months, probably a year, and that's what we can plan for.
That's interesting. So probably if I come to you, Anil, a slightly different thought that came to my mind after hearing all of them is we are looking at innovation in a constant way. And you need to do it at a fast pace, considering the business environment that we are living in. So it may always not be possible or you don't have the luxury of time to keep building those skill sets and then deploying them. But we have also seen organizations looking at having alliances or partnerships within the ecosystem. When we talk about you have fintechs, you have other consultants whom you like like to probably partner with to actually increase the pace of innovation and going to the market. But that is one aspect of it. But are you looking at it? Is that something that as an organization NatWest looks at it? And is that something that you're also using as a tool to actually build your own skill sets?
Absolutely. I think that is a big part of how we are looking at leapfrogging into the future. Mainly because of the pace at which the disruption is happening in the industry, we definitely have to keep up with the pace. So a couple of things, we as an organization are doing it in a structured manner. We have a very well structured program as part of the innovation and partnership theme itself globally. So as part of this, a couple of things we do in a structured manner is to keep an eye out for the future competition, disruption, and the opportunity for us to partner in the ecosystem which we operate in terms of partnership with fintechs, startups, and the academy as well, right? So as part of this, internally the way we are organizing to really leverage this capability where we can co-create, incubate, or even leverage some of those capabilities where they're solving some of this problem at scale using the latest and greatest technology. Internally, we are also realigning our operating model to create an architecture, the business domain architecture, the data architecture, and the tech architecture, so that we have a flexible framework where we can plug and play some of the capabilities which we can buy from this ecosystem itself. So good news is we have been doing this for quite some time. We have seen the benefits of it, and we don't take the traditional approach which we used to take a few years ago, where we want to build everything. We are still in control of our data. We are still in control of our governance and policy. We have built this technical architecture, or the architecture itself, where we get the flexibility of plugging in the capability as we wanted. And we become the integrator and the guardian of the end-to-end solution and the service we want to deliver to our customers and colleagues, right? So that's how we look at it. Just to add last point to it, India ecosystem, obviously, in terms of fintech and startup innovation, is thriving. It is almost reaching a point where it is third in the world. We are keeping a close eye on it, and some of the areas where we are keeping a close eye on the innovation happening in the fintech ecosystem in India is in the space of payments, as well as some of the hyper-personalization, embedded finance. These are of interest for us. So we are truly set up in a way where we are building that flexibility for us to leapfrog in partnership with some of these companies which are solving them in a very deep manner. So that's how we do it.
Yes. So, if I can come to you. It's obvious that with the increasing requirements for the new age skills, there's a gap between your requirement and demand, right? With probably Sandeep next to you offering 60% salary hikes or 100% salary hikes, how do you actually retain your talent and keep them in the organization?
Even if there's no talent board, Karthik is ensuring that there's enough for talent board that's going around. He's throwing it in there.
You just mentioned that, so.
So talking about talent, right, and this is the theme today is all about talent, right? So Karthik, if we look at today in the environment we talked about, is rapidly changing, right? It's rapidly changing, and the pace is very high. And we all talked about 50% of the jobs which are there today were not existing 20 years before. And 50% of the jobs which are existing today will not exist 10 years after. That's the degree of change which is happening, right? And how do you ensure the talent, the associates or the employees are able to have that skill and are relevant? How do you ensure the organizations retain the talent? To me, the most important thing is for retaining talent, you have to have a talent operating model, a next-gen talent operating model, which we implement, which is a part of the global operating model which is there, right? And what will be the key constituent of that? The key constituent to me is skill. How do you innovate skill? I was in another forum and I was talking about it. Skill is actually the new global currency. It's the most powerful currency. It's more powerful than US dollars. So how do you ensure you are able to get that skill in the right place? That's equally important, right? So what we do in our organization in TransUnion, we ensure there's a huge degree of upskilling and reskilling, which is in terms of how do you ensure that people have the ability to learn new skills, transfer. It should be all skills. We don't look for a job description anymore. We look at if the guy has skills or the lady has skills, just put him in that role. So skill is very important. And how do you do that, right? We do a lot of experiential learning in our organization TransUnion. We run hackathons which goes over 12 quarters. We run gig jobs where you have the ability to drive the organization problems. You look at, suppose I want to implement a chat GPT, how do I do that? If I want to put an AI ML model into my data model, how do I do that? So a lot of gig jobs we run and we incentivize people. And again, the question comes whether it should be top-down or it should be associate-driven, right? So creating a culture, what we have done in TransUnion is, all these things are run by associates. We enable a funding program, we enable that it is in place so that associates drive. So we call that as a culture of associate-driven excellence. And when you do all these things, right, then what happens is what they get in your organization is very unique, they cannot get it outside. So that's how you create the ability to retain talent. And that's what we have been trying, and it's just focusing on excellence, that's it.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of put a counter here because I think what I've also observed in GCCs, and again that's like a specific unique to GCCs, there are groups which actually start coding talent internally. You don't want to give your best people to a slightly more interesting project or a high customer impact project. And that's where probably you also face a challenge where you are kind of required to compromise on your internal talent, and then you end up buying talent from outside at a cost. I think the ideal place that we would love to look at is almost like an open marketplace for talent, where people with the relevant skills are actually kind of put on a platform and let the best projects and let the best businesses kind of reach out to them and let the individuals actually make a choice internally rather than kind of going out. So that's something which I just thought I'd add.
I just would love to add to what both of you said, because it's so true. I mean, we all look for talent externally, but the best talent that's truly available is sitting internally. So at Epsilon, like you guys have shared as well, we do look at how can people apply for positions internally, and they may not have the skills to fit that role to a complete team, but it's okay. If you have a large chunk which is trainable, and you have some other skills and you're willing to go ahead and experiment. And what this has led to is retention. So people are happy to grow, people are happy to stay back, and they can see that development happening. And there are a number of things like, like a hackathon, which is become a pretty industry common thing today. But we have hackathons that are there. We're able to say, are you interested in something? Go ahead and learn. There are learning platforms that are open for people to learn. Be it an area that they may not work on, but the company supports them. So Epsilon supports them to go and learn in certain areas as well. And I think all that leads to just this constant constant development opportunities that come up for people to learn either for your work or non-work as an individual personal level.
Is there anybody in the audience? We are almost running out of time. So, is there any question that the audience would like to ask the panelists? Okay. So, I have one last question, and if I can ask you and Santosh, specifically, if you can start off. When you look at GCCs, one of the main reasons for high attrition has always been how it is looked upon by the parent organization in terms of a delivery center or something. But of late, with you becoming a very important part of the success of that parent organization, there is a demand that you have a seat at the table as well. So how are you actually working towards enabling the future leaders who can have a seat at the table?
So I can take that. It's building on top of the first question I answered. So as part of our next level of maturity, we are not only, anything in terms of tech leadership or leadership in terms of the enabling capabilities, I know the team and the leadership which we have built thus far does a good job. I think where we still have some work to do is in terms of building true global leaders who really can have that conversation and have that credibility, seat on the table to run a global function, right? And also run a team which is globally distributed. That is where we have a challenge. So one of the things which we are constantly looking at is look at developing the mid-level managers who potentially will develop that confidence, develop that leadership skill. So we have a program called in NatWest, JMT program, Junior Management Training Program. So, and we take it very, very seriously. We handpick selected set of people every year and we give them an opportunity to be in the global routines where some of these functions are led by people not in the parent location but in other location. And through that, we have seen over years, a few of them have gone on to actually build that confidence and build that leadership ability along with their core competencies to run those functions. I feel as GCC, if we really want to, have that kind of stakeholder management to be done out of here, have a seat on the table as you referred to, we need to invest in leadership capability, more so than other capability because that's given.
Not vastly different from what most of the families are saying. It's raining GCCs for sure. I think that's very different. It's only going to go up in India with a positive environment, we have a business, etc. The availability of talent. Not even talking about the cost that's becoming a no-brainer now. For us, I think, like I mentioned in my introduction, from being a call center, contact center, and operation to being the largest footprint for Dell outside of the US is a big achievement. I think in India we hold from being an extension of the parent company, like you said, Karthik, to really being an integral part of the organization. From leader development, it's consistent flow to your point, and that's where we are too. Teams are run, trainings are run globally. Almost 30-40% of our hiring is internal movement. To Sonali's point, we're not to look out for talent at the moment. It's a good space to be in. And I think nobody can stay in an organization long doing the same job. So the opportunity of doing something different, if you have adjacent skills, you may not have a perfect match. So we created this open opportunity marketplace kind of thing where people can apply for a job internally. And if you are close to 80%, we will take you and take a chance on it. And that way, I think we're able to grow and mature a lot of our internal talent and give broader opportunities. Thank you.
Just a quick thing on what Santosh was saying and what Anil shared. So for us at Epsilon India, I think what has, we are the largest center anywhere globally. So we have the largest concentration of people in one location. I think that's worked for us. The global roles being run out of India has worked for us. And I think the third one is in terms of we are pretty integrated into Epsilon's success. So that is what is making a difference for us as well. With that back.
Thanks a lot. Constantly there are time or so. So thank you all for sharing your thoughts. I'm sure it's an area that we keep looking at with the foreign talent that's happening not just in GCC but across the industry. Very valuable input from you all. Thank you.